So, overall, it has been a roller coaster when it comes to this particular semester in my PhD. But we've been doing a lot, but I have been on and off in terms of motivation and enthusiasm and willpower and whatever else kind of word you want to put in that. But obviously, I've been teaching and I've been going to my particular classes in terms of presenting, being a teacher, being there for my students and whatnot. So everything is fine and dandy on that end. On the PhD side of things, like as a student, things are kind of rocky. But I am kind of getting more out of the loop in terms of bad routing and kind of just having lack of motivation. For starters, I've been dabbling in trying to find a new topic for me to like start writing about. The cool thing is that this semester I have two classes with Dr. Ola, and Dr. Ola is my second advisor, and usually his personality is kind of like nonchalant. He's like, oh, you can do whatever you want, however you want it, as long as it benefits you and your class and your identity and yada yada. So I have him for two classes. One of them is an undergrad class, and then the second one is a graduate level class. Both of them have to dabble in about like digital literacy. One of them is like technical writing, and then the other one is like digital technologies or something like that. And basically, in both of those classes, you get to propose whatever the hell you want to do. And so now I'm kind of dabbling on what I want to endeavor or what I want to do on that. Originally speaking, last semester in his previous class, I wanted to do a AI manual where I was going to talk to the people primarily in the English department about how to manage the AI situation, how to do it like from a teacher standpoint, how to teach prompt literacy and um, like structuring which AI to use and et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of like curved that idea, or at least for now, because I wanted to write it with one of my cohort members, but she's busy or she's overwhelmed, so I don't want to dabble in that. But now I'm just like, well, what do I do? And since I'm like in this grut of like, I don't know what the hell to pick, I managed to like um, come up with like a bunch of ideas that I put down on a piece of paper and I would like vomit it. And then now I kind of sort of organize them. And to just give you like the general snippet of things, like the first bucket, I put them in buckets. The first bucket is multilingual or translingual AI voice and identity. Second one is AI uptake pathways, like what it is to be curious, trusting, and reliant on AI. And then I put pedagogy as design, so like failure and retry mechanics. So that's like gamification. And then I kind of like the concept of dark academia, which is like the aesthetic or fashion trend or whatever that people do on TikTok and like Instagram and all that shebang. So I kind of want to write on that in terms of rhetoric and being the ideal student and whatnot. And I have like a whole like concept of that, but I guess I can go on to that later today. And then the other one is like affection. No, affecting scripts. So like shame rhetoric or sacrifice rhetoric, like being a first generation kid and then being like a good immigrant kid where you don't want to be the best student and so on and forth. And then I was also dabbling on like the idea of like writing centers and like being a advisor or a writing center consultant. I don't even know what they're called, tutor in the world of AI, and seeing how like the tutors are trying to like finagle themselves throughout this whole like thing. Well, I'm not really sure. I do think I like the dark academia one, but I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna pause this because, like I said, my student side of things has been kind of rocky. And as you can tell, last week on Sunday and even on Wednesday, I didn't upload because I'm having a difficult time going back to the former self of like me doing like, oh, today is Saturday, February 28th. It is currently 1:30 p.m. Like how I used to do it. And so since I don't really have a lot of like video logs like that where I'm just talking into the camera because I stopped doing that, it's really hard to come up with a video that isn't so like scripted or so robotized. So now I'm going through an identity crisis all over again. So I am thinking that this upcoming week I'm going to start doing this whole like presenting myself in the camera and using the camera more often than how I used to, and then just being smart about how do I incorporate it into the video because I do miss it, but it's like a roller coaster of like going through it. So, been going through it, but don't really know. Now, I guess let's go back to being a student because I haven't done that in a hot minute and I don't want that to reflect. So, a lot of things are currently happening in the world of my brain and trying to create a new project for myself. I know that yesterday I think it was yesterday, I talked about how I was wrapping my head around a particular subject matter. Yesterday, Josh came over to the house, spent time with us, and all that shebang. We are also talking to each other because of the fact that in a couple days, quite literally in like 2 or 3 days, we go to the Four Seas conference in Cleveland, Ohio. And maybe I meet Sarah because I believe she's giving a presentation there. She let us know about that, and that was pretty cool. So maybe I meet her and finally meet the person that inspired me to make my YouTube content. So that's pretty cool. Um, I am on week 2 that I haven't uploaded anything into my YouTube channel, and it's a hit and miss type of scenario. And tomorrow I am going to finally get a haircut, so I'm going to look a lot more presentable. But I wanted to come back on because I wanted to share the content that is going to be happening for next Sunday. Not only am I going to share the content at 4Cs, the conference, because I'm going to go and I'm going to record and I'm going to actually do the whole like day in the week or whatever, or a week in the life of a PhD student again, where I'm gonna like talk into the camera and not feel awkward out like I previously did, and I was going back and forth on that whole identity crisis. But I wanted to talk about like the project that I'm like trying to look into. Josh a long time ago told me that one of the things I should potentially like look into because it kind of fits my vibe of like being cringy, I guess, is dark academia. And if you all know, like dark academia, to some extent, it's like an aesthetic or like a fad or like a um, mentality in social media and in the world where like you are super cool, you're super like studious and super like the dark matter type of scenario. I don't know how you put it. Like you dress kind of cool, dark, and then you're kind of like Draco Malfoy from like Harry Potter, I guess. I don't really know how to embody this, but I'm writing it in the context of like rhetorical argument or like rhet comp or rhetorical writing. And so I think I've been working on the thesis statement. It's going to be like a multi-chapter thing that I'm trying to do just for fun. And that whole thing is I'm going to write about, I'm just going to read it. This project argues that dark academia functions as a multimodal rhetorical system that teaches people how to perform academic identity through practices, rituals, and objects, turns studying into a public platform-based genre with scripts and moral judgment, and moralizes academic labor by framing burnout, devotion, and guilt as evidence of worth. This system becomes especially legible in the DA and AI collision. If DA, which is dark academia, equates value with struggle and genius, then AI assisted writing triggers authentic panic and new rules of authorship and disclosure. So, my research question is going to primarily look into what does dark academia teach people to believe about scholarship, legitimacy, labor, and authorship, and how do those beliefs reshape study practices as public performance and perceptions of AI assisted writing? Now, I don't really know if I want to do the whole like AI thing. I am going to keep it there because that's what I know and that's my cup of tea, but I do like the ideology of like doing dark academia as a sense of like burnout and like overwork and overtime and justifying all that like burnout with like you're a good student or you're like a studious student or whatever. So I am going to do a breakdown of this. I've never dabbled in the world of dark academia. Like I understand what it is and how it came about and all that shebang because of like TikTok and like Tumblr and because of all those like young adult books that I've ever read, such as like Calabasas by R.F. Kwan and like V. Schwab and Lea Verdugo, and the list goes on. But like never have I ever really sat down to dabble on that whole endeavor. So this is going to be kind of interesting, and especially because I never really looked into it in terms of like scholarly sources, or at least like research oriented sources. So I am kind of interested in it. So I don't know where I'm gonna start. I'm thinking I'm just gonna email or text my advisor Jeff and ask him if he even anything regarding dark academia in any way, shape, or form. And assuming that he is or does, then cool. I have my like leg in or whatever, my foot in the door. But if he doesn't, then I guess cold searching dark academia on like EBSCOT or whatever it's called would be the ideal way to go about it, but I don't really know what that's gonna entail. On another note, because this is gonna be one massive video after not posting for like 2 weeks, I will be going to Four Seas conference. I will be in Cleveland, Ohio, and I will be posting about this at that current week that I'm in there, and hopefully I have fun. Hopefully it's something cool. Hopefully I get more ideas to spark the curiosity of being a researcher and finding something new to write about. I am joining a lot of like AI oriented sessions, to be perfectly honest. I don't know how many they are, but I do know they're going to be quite a bit. I did pay for like the session ones, like the ones that you go do and they're like workshops, and they take a huge chunk of the day. I know that like on Wednesday I'm gonna be on one like particularly all day, so I'm gonna miss the other meetings that are kind of sort of AI oriented, but that's okay. We'll see how that goes. But I am excited. I am gonna be meeting a couple of professors that I had cold emailed and like met through Zoom and so on and forth. So that's pretty cool. I will be kind of sort of recording all that. I'm gonna take my meta glasses, so hopefully I'll be like recording on that and this chick as well. And then I do know for a fact that my advisor from San Diego State is gonna be there, so we're gonna meet up and hopefully spend some time together. And I know that she's gonna be busy, but we'll see how that goes. And I am pretty excited. So this is gonna be a pretty big video, and now you're seeing me all kind of weird looking, but hopefully tomorrow in the afternoon you'll see me a lot better looking. But tomorrow I am going to wake up relatively early because I am going to go teach at Macomb Community College, and then afterwards we're going to get ourselves situated because on Tuesday we start driving to Cleveland, Ohio. So ride along with me. So talk to you guys tomorrow. Hello! So, as you can see, I finally got my haircut, and hopefully it is a good one. I think I like it. I'm trying to see, I've always cut my hair kind of like Thomas Shelby from like the Peaky Blinders, and I don't really know if it fits me or not, but Sandy says that I look like Julius Caesar or whatever. So, that's her bullying me. But right now, we are on our way to Cleveland, Ohio, because we are going to, well, I am going to the Four Seas conference. And right now she is driving, and I am here because I am looking into my next writing aspect or my next project that I'm trying to create. I'm looking into, like I said before, the concepts of dark academia in the field of rhetoric and writing, and I'm conceptualizing it with identity purposes for students and trying to figure out how students correlate unhealthy habits of being an academic. So in this context, it's the fact of like burnout or them thinking that they have to study until they're like dead tired in order to be a 10 out of 10 student. Some people correlate that with achievements or like success, and then assuming that they do that, they end up either working themselves, like overworking, or they burn out and they drop out of school, or they do some other negative means of like academic. Now, obviously, the dark academia perspective or aesthetic comes from like Tumblr, and like now it comes from like Instagram and probably TikTok, where people do like the study with me genre. And so that's what I'm looking into. I'm going to start reading like a bunch of random blogs and looking into core definition concepts so I can incorporate into my article. And then also later on transition to identity perspectives, and also most likely transition to mechanisms of transfer for students. So like the concept of like understanding that you burning out and you overworking yourself and et cetera correlates in your brain that you're like a 10 out of 10 student. There's no like healthy boundary or whatever. So I don't really know where to start in regards to like how to like look into it or whatever, but I did manage to get a couple of articles here and there. And so that's where I'm looking at. I did kind of update my Zotero. Updated my Zotero on a bunch of articles regarding such concepts. So it's like 37 articles on it, or like blogs and scholarly sources and so on and forth. But there is like sense of reading culture. Like my keywords or my tags are intellectualism, Jesus, and then book talk. We have dark academia, we have ethics and education, metacognition, reading culture, social culture theory, and the list goes on. I did send I made like a project list of several projects that I'm interested in looking into, one of them being this, and I sent them to Jeff, but he told me that he was going to look into it and see what he says. But I did ask him after I sent that list, if he has any like sense of I guess like advice when it comes to dark academia, any sources that he would like to provide. And he was like, I have to look into it because that's not my cup of tea, or I've never really dabbled in that, but I'll do it for you or whatever. So first and foremost, and then second of all, we'll see how that goes. But I've been bombarding that poor guy with like a bunch of stuff, and right now he's obviously busy with his own stuff, but then on top of that, he's having to juggle like 4 or 5 of my stuff. So I'm quite putting him to work, but that's okay, I guess. So with that being said, we still have like around 2 more hours to drive, so I'm just going to continue reading and then maybe reflect on that when I come back. So I'll let you guys know. So I don't really know how loud this is going to be, especially because we're out in the street, but today was kind of eventful. I don't necessarily know if it was a good eventful in regards to the conferences at 4Cs, but I didn't really vlog inside of 4Cs, but it's okay. I was adapting and I was familiarizing myself with the ambience around, and so now I know where to go and where to walk to. So maybe tomorrow I record. Tomorrow I'm going to be there super early, like around 7:30, to try to see the welcoming committee or the newcomer committee. But right now I'm on my way to have dinner with a professor from the University of Missouri, Kansas City or whatever. I don't even forget what the proper name of the university is. And I had met him before through Zoom, but I didn't articulate that in my videos. But I am pretty excited to go meet him right now, so we'll see how that goes. But overall, it was pretty good. It was pretty nice, pretty chill. The conferences were kind of whatever, but tomorrow's going to be a different day, and tomorrow's probably going to be a better day. There's a lot more cooler ones to look at, so let me see where I have to go.
So, today is day 2 of the 4Cs conference, and it is currently 6:30 in the morning, and we are getting relatively early because we're gonna go eat breakfast before I have to go to the convention. So, there's like a newcomers conference today where we're gonna meet like old cumbers of like 4Cs, and they're gonna guide us, put us under the wing type of scenario, and guide us. So that's pretty fun. I decided to opt in for that and see what's happening. But overall, yesterday was pretty fun. I didn't really do anything conference wise. Nothing in terms of like the presentations. I didn't feel like I learned anything in that regard, but I did end up like learning for people. Like I met a lot of people. I got to talk to a lot of people. I got to make new like relationships or friendships or whatever. And then I also got to meet Dr. Antonio Bird, and there's a lot of noise, and that was fun. It was kind of cool to like be in the world of higher ups or established people of like professors and whatnot. So I kind of want to like see what I am and what they are, and etc etc. And so it was cool. But today we're gonna try to actually go into a whole presentation and see how that goes.
Residents and visitors to Northeast Ohio, we encourage investigations into the histories of the places in which we live, work, and gather, including their forgotten and omitted legacies. Calling attention to the facts of Indigenous...
It is my great pleasure to introduce the 2026 chair of the Conference on College Composition and Communication, Dr. Kofi Adisa.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words.
Yeah.
Or they're not there when you hold me and take care, because what we have is much more than they can see. Or love me tender, love me true. My late mom, a collector of songs and sorrows, loved the darkness in a country that never loved her. 1, 2, 1, 2. Song to sing. They have a story to tell, but you gotta want to listen to them. You have to see with a third eye and hear with a third ear. It's not solely the attending to sound, but it is knowing within that deep space of you, of people's voices, of people's songs, stories, blues, that when we train ourselves to really listen, we can see our students as human beings. However, such listening just doesn't happen. You really have to want to hear what students have to say. And far too many of us cannot listen because we have not learned how to be silent. I'm going to say that again. Far too many of us cannot listen because we have not learned how to be silent. Sort of like being an ally in name only. Sort of like talking that linguistic justice by practicing white language supremacy. Sort of like clamoring for diversity credit and never checking your privilege. Better yet, it's like saying you care about your students but know nothing about them, sometimes not even their names. All right? 1, 2. 1, 2. One of my students came to me and said that she really didn't understand the South. She didn't really understand why there was anti-lynching, because in her context, from her country, hanging was a punishment. But when I had her listen to Billie Holiday's rendition of Strange Fruit, things began to click. And I spent another hour with that student. She told me she had learned so much in that one class about Reconstruction, for instance, that she had never known. And I said, sadly, there are many people, some of them are teachers, who don't know this history. It's not their song. so they never cared to learn the words. She thanked me for being patient and kind, and she left with her drums, her horns, her guitar, her voice, her song, because she had her ancestors. Thank you.
They develop a proposal for the project informed by secondary research and their initial fieldwork. And then once the proposal is approved, they execute the community storytelling project.
Time, and I'm like, where's Manny? He would be shitting his pants right now. We'll be your therapy group. We got you, Manny. Literally, they brought up a philosophical idea or like a theoretical idea of like the right to refuse, like the right to refuse work. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, yes.
So, day 2 of 4Cs is technically done. And now I'm with everybody. And we are going to be going back to my hotel where I'm staying at. Because we're going to go eat and have dinner and decompress, I guess. But overall, it was a very productive day. I spoke to Antonio Bird again. I saw Jason Tam again, which is a professor from Texas Tech, and he is the editor-in-chief of Computers and Composition. And so that was cool. We just ended our final AI session that I went to, which I did learn some things in, and then he was there with me and we were talking back and forth in that regard. And it was interesting. It was about like slow rhetoric and trying to understand slow rhetoric in the space of AI and what does that mean? How does that entail? How should we go about it? And it was really cool thought process. The other thing is that prior to that meeting, we went to another conference or another presentation where they talked about how they were doing their methodology of like AI disclosures. And one of the things that they did for their concept is that they got I guess like a get out of free jail card or like a immunity contract from their school's provost. And that was cool. Like I never really thought about that. And it also like adds like a blanket layer of like security for students if they're like, oh, I'm not gonna say anything because I can get expelled. So yeah, I mean, it seems like it's common sense in the big spectrum of things, but I'm not really sure. So there's a lot to think about. There's a lot of mingling. I saw my advisor again, Jennifer Burke-Wright from San Diego State. We went to dinner. It was pouring rain earlier today, and it was like all over the place, but it was fun. And then like the number one thing that later on I'm gonna like talk even more is that I finally met Sarah Fisher, which is like the YouTube person that I've like been following, and that she inspired me to create my own YouTube channel and all that shebang. So I was like super fangirling. I also met Megan and super fangirl again. And so everything is pretty cool right now. So we'll see how this goes.
Honestly, as long as there's vegetarian option, I'm good with whatever.
Day 3 of 4Cs. We got into a couple sessions, and now we are trying to go for an early lunch, or at least a light lunch, before we go to our next session, because nothing is really playing until like 12 or 1 p.m. and it's currently 11. So I don't know. We're just mingling. I did meet someone from California or San Diego State alumni, my alma mater, and then we were talking. But so far, it's pretty packed with all these people, and then obviously there's people upstairs. But no sabo. How this is gonna go?
Oh, they got the Square Cafe has.
Got that. It's never been this packed.
It's been like this all the whole time I've been here.
Hello. So as you can see, we're finally back at our place, and We officially finalized the Four Cs conference. Yesterday, I didn't particularly go to the conference. I had purchased a workshop that was going to happen on Saturday, which was the last day of the conference. I don't even remember what I think it was like AI pedagogy on like how to do assignments with AI and all that other stuff. But honestly, the general breakdown of 4Cs was kind of, I used it as a means of networking, and I used it as a means of just scoping it out because it was obviously my first one and I'd never been there. But I primarily used it to go see my advisor from San Diego State, Jennifer Burke Reifman, and that was super nice, super cool. And then I also used it to meet new people, but I also used it to meet Antonio Bird, which was a wonderful meeting. And it was really informative on how we talked about approaches into the PhD program and how I should look at things differently. He's a wonderful guy, wonderful person in general, wonderful mentor, and it was super nice to talk to him and spend time with him. I also got to meet a bunch of other people too, like Jason Tam, which is like the editor-in-chief of Computers and Composition. We ended up going to like a pub with the creative writing people. Even though I didn't really socialize with a lot of them, I did socialize with one or two, and I got to meet them and talk to them, and it was all right. I don't necessarily think that I got a lot in regards to the conference as a scholar or as a teacher. And I don't know if that's just me being like Grinch like or not, but there was a couple, like one or two, possibly three presentations that I went to that I did get something out of. So we're gonna ride that high or use that to plan things out. The one thing that it did give me was kind of like enthusiasm or like motivation to push myself forward to possibly um, propose something for me to present next year. But I'm still working on that. Today we woke up and we managed to situate ourselves in terms of academics. The call to proposal for 4Cs 2027 came out, and it's quite something, to be perfectly honest. It's going to be in Milwaukee, and overall the proposal, to my understanding, is, hold on, I have it written somewhere. I contextualize it as like overall future projects or future implications. So that means like, what does the future have to do with us, or how do we see pedagogy or thought process or like teaching practices into the future? What is a plausible? What is a probable? What is the preferable? And et cetera, et cetera. So it's all things looking into the future with all the negative things either happening or the positive things happening. So in that regard, it already fits into the motion or into the whole thematic of my AI ghostwriter slash co-authorship fundamentals. So for sure, I'm going to propose that. But the second project, like the second and the third project that I'm currently trying to develop and create is for like the first one is talking about dark academia, and then the second one is upon shame rhetoric, and so over the course of like 2 weeks ago or more, I've been working or slowly building on dark academia. And I don't just mean that like in the sense of like TikTok or like book talk or like Tumblr, where it's all old library Harry Potter slash I don't know, like super dark thematic Draco Malfoy type of stuff. I'm particularly interested in what dark academia does rhetorically and culturally, but I am seeing more of I'm seeing how like overall dark academia ties to like knowledge and beauty, and like the fact that they glorify exclusivity, prestige, and suffering. And so I think what interests me in this whole world is that dark academia often looks romantic, like on the surface, but like underneath, you don't even know what the hell is happening. So the whole like point of like why do people like this so much? Why is this concept so uh, intense in the sense of like why does it sell? How are people enjoying it, etc., etc. Kind of sparks interest. So for me, this project is primarily like academic identity and like how you are perceived as a student, as a scholar, as a how that is perceived from image, from perspective, what is consumed, what is not. And so like what are the tensions between beauty of intellect and like the darker side of underneath in it, which is like privilege, mental instability, isolation, the glorification or the glamorizing of burnout and suffering and all that shebang. The other project that I'm particularly looking into or I'm creating or developing is machine rhetorics, which is essentially, to me, this is like a very personal proposal that I'm gonna try to do. Um, it's essentially the idea that shame is not just emotional, not just an emotion for people, but it's like a feeling that you feel quite intensely. Uh, and so one of the places that I'm looking into it is obviously because I'm Mexican American, I'm first generation Mexican. I keep thinking about this in the sense of Mexican culture, or at least from my experience, that there's a lot of pressure around education, where if you go into higher ed, you almost feel like you're not allowed to fail. Because if you do fail, it becomes like, see, why didn't you do what I told you to do? Like, you should have just like married, had kids, worked a 9 to 5 like every other person. And so because of that, the expectation for you is to ultimately just acclimate to what generations and generations have been doing. So the way that I wrote it is that this kind of messaging sticks with people. It shapes how they think, how they move, what they risk, and how they see themselves. So for me personally, this project is about asking how does shame function as a rhetorical force, and how does it discipline people? How does it shape educational choices, identity, ambition, or fear, or and fear? I'm especially interested in the relationship between shame and first generation students, students of color, and people trying to move beyond what was imagined for them. So stereotypical to Mexican culture, or at least in my world, just go work a 9 to 5, go become a dad, have a family, have a wife, have kids, and live that life that like we lived with. And so, because of shame doesn't necessarily need to always be dramatic or dramatized. Sometimes it can be perceived as guilt. Sometimes it can sound like family pressure, and sometimes it sounds like disappointment before anything even actually happens. So, in this project, even though I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it, I want to explore how shame gets communicated, how it gets internalized, and how people either live under it or push back against it. Um, I think I can make this project into like a culture aspect or like a rhetoric, education, identity all at once. And it's going to be super interested how you go from a foundation of like a Spanish saying like ponte las pilas, which essentially is like um, do it with effort or do it with intent, or the fact that people are like échale ganas, so like put effort, put intent, it can be perceived as something either positive or negatively. And so what does that necessarily apply into the world of higher education and being first generation and being a person of color and being a minority in the world that was predominantly white world or white privileged or whatever, with higher academia and elitism. So there is that. I'm still super new into this whole world, both in the PhD side and also in these projects. But hopefully, with talks with my advisor and how I want to go about this, it can potentially be something good. On a much positive note, I finally got to meet Megan McCool and Sarah Fisher, which is the girl that I've been following on YouTube for like the longest time, and that was super fangirl episode of me. Hopefully, I didn't come off as very, not necessarily like stalkerish, but like super fangirl YouTube follower type of aesthetic. But it was really interesting. It was really nice to put the face to the human or whatever and see them in person. We talked about their project, we talked about my project, we talked about how I just came to Detroit, to Wayne State, and all that shebang. So that was pretty cool. Um, I tend to panic talk when I'm in a very uncomfortable situation or very like anxiety inducing situation. So hopefully I didn't say anything stupid, but she was super nice. Both of them were super nice. I got to meet other people from Indiana University, I believe, and they were nice as well. So we'll see. And now I'm just not cutting. Now I am strengthening my ties with people and saying like, thank you for meeting me, thank you for talking to me, thank you for giving me the time today, and hopefully keep more relationships open and stronger relationships being formed to start doing collaborations and whatnot. The other cool thing is that me, Josh, Mallory, and Tish are planning to make a 4-person project proposal for 4Cs next year. So hopefully we can get that going, but we'll see.
So, overall, today has been kind of relatively a productive day. Yesterday was kind of relatively productive too, but today has been productive in the sense that I'm trying to tackle all of my interest, especially after coming back from 4Cs and kind of situating myself on what do I want to do. We spoke about how. I wanted to dabble in the world of dark academia in the sense of burnout theory or like being the perfect student or whatever concept. But I also talked about kind of embodying this whole like shame rhetoric aesthetic where like being a first generation Mexican child builds this foundation of like either you make it or you get shamed for not making it. Um, I'm not really focusing on the world of the shame rhetoric right now. I'm really focusing on the dark academia side of things. But I had a meeting with my advisor, Jeff Prushnik, a couple hours ago, and we talked about how everything is like going together, and like we did like a general check-in for 4Cs, how'd it go, what I thought about it, what I learned, what I did, blah, blah. And then we talked about, he had like a lot of stuff that I like piled on him. We talked about my QE list and in regards to like, what am I looking into that and blah, blah. And lo and behold, he said that he was going to deep dive even more on that whole spiel of things because he really didn't. And I was like, maybe you should. So he is doing that. I think he told me that he's going to get back to me on Friday, I believe so. After that whole spiel of things, we talked about my concept of like dark academia and we talked about my concept of the shame rhetoric side of things. And he was kind of surprised, I guess. I don't really know how to put it. He was kind of like thinking of like, whoa, where did this come from type of scenario where he was like, how are we talking about AI and all of a sudden we transition to like dark academia edginess and like um, immigrant, first generation student, whatever, blah, blah. And well, I told him in a laughing way that like, A, I am Mexican, so I guess that kind of fits in the whole notion of everything. And then the second part was like, oh, I came from creative writing and my whole thing was like young adult and whatever, blah, blah. So I don't know, it's like a subject matter that interests me, and the correlation interests me. But I don't know. I kind of felt like he was like, this is kind of weird, but sure. He was supportive, but it was kind of like a distant supportive. I don't know how to put it. Um, it also kind of feels like he's really busy, and I mean he is busy, but it kind of feels like he's too busy. And so I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I kind of feel like right now it's a bad thing because I don't feel like he's fully there.
but I can't blame him. And honestly, the world doesn't revolve around me for him to be like, let me be at Manny's disposal 24/7. So, yes and no. We did speak about how I will be presenting this upcoming Monday, not not today or like not last week, but like the Monday of next week. I will be presenting at EMU, and I will do a presentation or a panel or whatever it's called. So that is kind of exciting, but it's kind of nerve wracking, I guess. There's a lot of things to think about, but I'm just kind of going through it because I'm trying to think of doing two different videos right now. I'm thinking about my Wednesday video, and I'm thinking about my Sunday video, like this upcoming Sunday. And then I haven't done my Sunday video that was like supposed to be due yesterday. So like, I don't know. I feel very behind on things, and not in a bad way, but like, yes, in a bad slash, I need to just hurry up and do stuff. So I guess right now I gotta do some other video talks.